بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء نحوا سنقرئك فلا تنسى
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Inshallah, this is going to be lesson 9 and we are discussing the rules of Sharia al-Islam, and we said that Sharia al-Islam is divided into four segments. Chapter 1 is the ibadat, chapter 2 is bilateral decrees, chapter 3 is unilateral, and chapter 4 is ahkam, the laws, judiciary laws, ahkam. So we finished the three chapters, the summary of Sharia al-Islam. Now we are going to take the chapter 4 or the summary of the volume 4, which is al-ahkam. This word used here has no special definition like ahkam. The fact is that those issues of jurisprudence that do not fall into one of the other three groupings have been grouped together to form this one. The section contains 12 books. So what he's trying to do is he's saying that this chapter 4, the ahkam, does not necessarily include the ahkam which is like the court laws, judiciary laws. No, it includes all which could not be under those chapters which we mentioned. It's not an ibadah, it's not bilateral rulings of bilateral dealings, it's not unilateral dealing rulings, it's not judiciary, it is judiciary plus all the miscellaneous others. These are like 12. If you look at like for example hunting, who will you hunt with? With your goat? My goat, I am going to slaughter you for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The goat will say, bam, something like qabiltu, qabiltu, something like that. You don't expect that. It's not bilateral. Or you are going to say, oh goat, I am slaughtering you, and that's it. Like you don't have that kind of like this. This is not like dealing with human. This is like dealing with sometimes with animal or sometimes with solid things. So it is not ibadah. If you slaughter the goat, Bismillah, Wallahu Akbar, and you didn't say Qurbatan Lillahi Ta'ala, the goat is okay, it's halal, and it will be as long as you said Bismillah, Wallahu Akbar, in the name of Allah. It is not like Zawwajtuka nafsi, I'm making myself your wife. The husband says Qabilt, I'm slaughtering you. The goat says yes I do, or no, don't slaughter me, I do not accept to be slaughtered. Or the third thing is that it's not unilateral because he does not understand you. The only thing I understand is the knife going on his throat. So this we keep it under fourth, the ahkam, the laws in general, which includes the judicial laws and these things. So the first book, if we can read, the book of hunting and slaughtering, as-sayd wa-dhibaha. Sayd wa-dhibaha, hunting and slaughtering. First, it is necessary to state that the meat of permitted meat animals becomes permitted either when the animal is slaughtered in a special way, dhabh or nahar, dhabhun or nahrun, or the animal is wild animal, the meat of which is permitted when it is properly hunted by special trained dogs or by means of an iron spear like a sharp arrowhead or a sharp bullet. So we have like, first of all, we have to see the animal is edible or not. So if it's deer, it's edible. If it's lion, it's non-edible. Now you can hunt to make the meat halal for the edible animal. You can hunt to make the skin of the lion, for example, pure. You cannot eat the lion flesh, no. But at least if you have hunted him with halal means, that means we should touch the skin or leather which you are wearing, or from made out of lion skin, then it is pure. It is not najas. So therefore, we have this the hunting and the slaughtering and hunting. So what is the difference? When do we slaughter and when do we hunt? If the animal was in control, you can have the control of it, then that's the time where you slaughter the animal. But if the animal is non-controllable, then you hunt the animal. So if the domestic animal becomes not out of control, then you hunt it. Like for example, you gave your chicken nice juicy healthy mashallah wealthy juice or some radioactive lentils and something. The chicken got this muscular chicken, you know, like this chicken and run or something like that. And now you want to slaughter your chicken. What's happening? The chicken is running away and is saying, you cannot catch me, something like that, and you are running behind your chicken. So now, okay, if I cannot catch you, it's not controllable, I cannot, then you take a shotgun and kaboom. Now, shotgun is a problem. Why? Because there are two types of guns. One which has sharp bullet, one which has those pellets, those small balls. Those are not halal. That the bullet needs to be sharp. The bullet, if it goes inside without being sharp, it is not acceptable. So there needs to be a kind of sharp edged bullet or sharp object or something sharp cutting the animal and piercing the animal. So that's number one. So it should be a sharp object because you know these pellets, it may go inside, but the animal might have died because of the shock or because of the gunpowder. No, we need the bleeding process. Even if the blood comes out, it's an external blood. You know, it's not from deep inside. It did not pierce internal organ, so it did not kill it. So it's something else might have killed it. So you need to have sharp object which pierces the body. So it could be a spearhead, it could be anything sharp, metal object. That's the condition. So the animal, so you took your gun with the sharp object and or you shot an arrow to your chicken, and now the chicken is now in your hand. So but you have to say Bismillah Wallahu Akbar, in the name of Allah, in the name of Allah, shoot the arrow. So this is if the domestic animal becomes wild and uncontrollable, or a wild animal becomes domestic. For example, deer is running in jungle and running and you're chasing. So you shot the deer. What happened? It hurt the leg of the deer. The deer did not die. Now you come close to the deer. Now the deer is in the hand. It's controllable. It's alive. It's living. The injury is not even injury of death. So in this case, what will happen? You have to slaughter the deer. So if the domestic animal becomes wild or a controllable animal become uncontrollable, you can hunt that animal. If the non-controllable or wild animal becomes domestic animal or becomes like controllable, then you slaughter. But let's say if you shot a deer, when you come close to the deer is at the edge of its death, life and death. In this case, what will happen? In this case, we will say that you don't need to slaughter him, you know, because he's already dying. There is a little bit life left, but he's already dying. You know, in 5 minutes he'll be dead. So remaining soul inside that body which is departing, you don't need to go and slaughter. But if he was alive, the injury was what they call it, non-causing death, non-fatal injury, then you have to slaughter that deer. So this is basically now we know that the domestic animals are slaughtered, like the cat. You bring your cat, you purr your cat and meow and my sweet little cat, and you take the knife out and Bismillah Wallahu Akbar. So why do you want to slaughter the cat? It's not an edible animal, yes, but you want to use the fur of the cat because your wife was too wishy-washy, demanding, oh, I want to have a kind of a purse with a pure fur cat and all those kind of things. So you are, oh my goodness, what will I do? I'm this and that, and she's made a big demand. I want my meher of marriage, a purse made out of real cat fur. I love cats. I want to have cat fur in my my purse should be made out of cat fur. So you had a nice juicy little cat with a fluffy fur and a lot of hair and nice curly shirly, all those kind of things, and you took her and slaughtered her. So now that leather of the cat which is underneath the fur is pure. It's pure. But if you touch it with wetness, it does not become najis. So animals are slaughtered not just to be eaten. No, they are slaughtered or hunted in order to use the leather to prevent the najasat. Because when we sweat, the sweat will cause our body to be najis. If the jacket was made out of pure leather and it was a non-slaughtered animal or non-hunted animal, like the bear skin. The bear skin is skin underneath, and outside it's fur. So you are wearing this bear skin for the winter, and then you sweat. So in this case, we will say that the body will become impure, najis, because your sweat touched that impure. Unless if you have hunted that bear, then it is something else. The second section, the meat of domestic permitted meat animal, that means edible animal, is not permissible to be eaten if they are hunted, and they must be slaughtered in exact accordance to the Sharia. The way of slaughtering most tame animals, like hens, like domestic animals, like hens, sheep and cows, etc., is called dhibhun. And the way of slaughtering camel is called nahar. There is a slight difference between the actual acts of nahar and dhibh, but the conditions, such as the slaughterer being a Muslim and killing the animal is in the name of God, are same. So basically, nahar, what does nahar mean? Nahar means they tie the legs of the camel, and they bring this big knife and they plunge it in the hole, this Adam's apple. Underneath there's a groove. They just plunge it, Bismillah Wallahu Akbar, and pull it out, and all the blood drains out, and the camel his neck starts to flirt up and down, or jump up and down, and all those kind of things. So this is the nahar, facing the camel in the direction of the Qibla, the whole legs and the neck. And the cow and the goat, they are tied hands, they are kept down and then facing the Qibla. The legs should face the Qibla also. The slaughterer must be Muslim, and he says Bismillah Wallahu Akbar and slaughters the cow or the hen, also the same thing, chicken. So now we know that hunting, the rules of hunting is the Muslim hunter mentioning the name of Allah, sharp object. The rules of dhabh, slaughtering, Muslim, name of Allah, a sharp object, and he needs to cut the 4 veins, 4 pipelines. 2 pipelines are 2 veins, these jugular veins, and Apple's Adam, and the artery which goes up in the brain. So the artery which brings the blood up, the vein which brings the blood down, and then we have the trachea, like the windpipe, and the esophagus. So windpipe and the esophagus and these 2 jugular vein, they need to be cut, 4 of them. They need to be cut, 4 of them. So the jugular vein and arteries are here, and then we have because one is taking the blood, one is taking the down, and then we have these 2 pipelines, one windpipe and one esophagus, which is food canal. So these are the conditions. The facing the direction of the Qibla, and hunting direction of Qibla is not required. Slaughtering, as-sayd aw dhabh. Next slide. Hunting is related to permitted meat animals that are wild, like deer and mountain goats, etc. If the means by which the animal is hunted is a dog, the dog must be so trained that it will do whatever it is commanded, and thus reflect its master's will. And the meat of permitted meat animals that are hunted and killed by dogs are not trained in this way must not be eaten. In the same way, hunting with the animals other than dogs, like hawks, is also not permissible. So we have hunting with animal is only limited to a dog, and not any dog, trained dog, hunting dog, special dog, because there are so many dogs, guarding dog, this dog. No, it needs to be a hunting dog. If it's non-hunting dog, not trained to hunt, a dog which is not trained to hunt, we cannot eat the meat hunted by it. So the hunting dog must be the dog which has the when you say go, it goes. When you say stop, it stops. It is trained in a way that it will hunt. And the trained dog, what happens, they bite on the neck of the animal, so the blood starts to come out very fast. So this is their train. Otherwise, other dog might bite the hand, might bite the leg, and all those kind of things. The portion which he bites, it can be washed. Once it's washed, it becomes pure, because dog is not just entirely. So even hawks you cannot use. No hawks, no untrained dog, only trained dogs. In hunting by non-animals means it is a condition that the weapon be iron or at least metal, and it must be so sharp that it kills the animal by its sharpness. So hunting with stones and blunt metal missiles is not permitted. In both forms of hunting, just like in both forms of slaughtering, the conditions that the man responsible for the animal's death, he, the hunter, be a Muslim, and that he begins in the name of God, and must be met for the meat of that animal to be permissible. In hunting by non-animal means, like we mentioned that there are two types of hunting and two types of slaughtering. Two types of slaughtering is one slaughtering by the regular animals, and another one is slaughtering or hamstringing the camel, which is you put the knife in his pulp, or in his that groove which is under between the neck and the chest. Hunting is two types. One is with sharp object, one is with animal. With animal, that is with the dog. So we have sharp object, we have a Muslim hunter, and we have the saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There are other conditions, but they are detailed, and here is not their place. So for example, these are discussed in other places. Book of eating and drinking. Now we discussed about the hunting, the rules of hunting and rules of slaughtering. Now let's see a book of eating and drinking. Al-At'ima wal-Ashriba. Islam has a series of instructions concerning the gifts of nature as regarding eating and drinking. The laws of slaughtering and hunting are amongst these, and so are the laws of eating and drinking. In the view of Islam, all good things, that is, things are beneficial and useful, are permitted, while all foul things that are not beneficial and which are abominable for men are forbidden. Furthermore, Islam has not contented itself with explaining these generalities, but has made it clear that a whole group of things are foul and must be shunned, and that other things are good, and that there is no obstacle to making use of them. So for example, if Islam is going to mention halal things, then it's going to be long procedure. This is halal, that is halal. We will have lists of hundreds of things. So Islam gave us that everything for you is halal except for whatever haram, because haram things are few things. Haram things are very few things. So of course in generic, but in spreading wise, if they become more than generic, that means, like for example, we say haram things are few things, like alcohol, dead meat, not slaughtered and not hunted properly, pig meat, dog meat, impurities touched by dog, and all those kind of impure. If you count them, forbidden things, consumable forbidden things are only few, not many, like in genaria. Like it can be counted by hand. Other than these things, everything is halal, everything. But when you come to this, to the practical, if these few things which are haram, they become plenty in the market, then of course, then the specifics are more than the generic. So, like for example, meat, dead meat is haram. Dead meat is haram. But other than that, halal meat is plenty. In general, only dead meat, only the meat which is not slaughtered properly is forbidden. If you slaughter properly, it's halal, like the cow and all those kind of things. But what happens? Practically when you look halal, haram meat is more than halal meat. Then you find trouble there. There's a problem there. So therefore, Islam does not tell you every halal thing, this halal. No. Islam tells you the haram things so you can avoid, which are few things. Next slide. The book of eating and drinking. Eating means either the eating of meat or the eating of other things. Meat is either from the creatures of the sea or of the land or of the air. So creatures of the sea, creatures of the land, creature of the air. Of the creatures of the sea, only fish and shrimp are permissible. And then again, only the creatures that have scales. So we have the seafood. Only fish which has scale is halal, those thin. Shrimp is sea creature. It has scale. Unlike lobster and crab, those, they don't have scale. They have this crust. They are called crustacea. They have thick crust on their body. So this crust, you, like many people, they break it, they cut it with hard knives, and then they start make it like a cup, and they start eating lobsters like eating ice cream in a cup, something like that. So therefore, this is what we say is halal, which has. Now there are some fish, they have scales, but they drop it when they have fear that, oh, I'm going to be caught, like they are in the net or something like that, or somebody holds. They start shivering in a way that all their scales fall down. So if you find like kingfish, if you find a kingfish, you will find sometimes tiny scales under its gills or under its fins. So therefore, this fish is halal. Even in the riwayat it is mentioned that the kan'ath, which is kingfish, is halal, though it does not have scale when you catch him, but it has scale in certain age of its life. So if a fish had scale in its life when it was young fish, and then when it grew it dropped its scales, still that fish is halal, because it's from the species which has originally the scales. So the condition of fish to be halal are two. One, it should be having scale. Number two, it should die after coming into possession. That means they say it should die after water, after coming out of water. If you take a fish out of the water and it's already dead, that's haram. The fish needs to die out of the water. What about the nets? When you put the nets at night and you come next day in the morning, you find a lot of fish, they are dead inside and they're in the water. This is different. Here they call it hiyaza, control. Here these fish died after they came in your control. If the fish dies after coming inside your control, because this net is yours, it came inside your control and then it died, then there's no problem. So this rule is exempt, the rule of dying outside of the water, in the case where the fish dies inside the water, but inside the net and inside the traps made by the fishermen. The creatures of the land are of two types. The tame animals, the meat of which is permissible to eat, are cows, sheep, camels, hens, horses, donkeys, and mules, which are permissible. Though the eating of the meat of horses, donkeys, and mules is undesirable, abominable, makruh, the meat of dogs and cats and pigs are forbidden. Of the wild animals, the meat of carnivorous animals and insects is forbidden. Like you cannot eat the insects, and you cannot eat the carnivorous animals, the flesh-eating animals. The meat of deer, however, and of wild cows and goats and other wild animals that are permissible when tame are permissible. The meat of hares and rabbits. The hare is a bigger rabbit. Rabbits are small, hare is big. Though they are not carnivorous, in accordance to the famous verdict of the ulama, it is forbidden. As for the birds, we have birds. If we don't know that this bird is halal meat or not, we'll see when it's flying. If the flapping is more than flipping, then it is haram. If the flipping is more than flapping, then it is halal. So we have flipping and flap. Like eagle, they keep their flap. But the flipping, of the chicken flips more than flap. So eagle, it flaps more, but pigeon, it flips more. So between flips and flap. Of the birds, the meat of different types of pigeon, partridge, I don't know what partridge is, just look into the dictionary, one type of the pigeons, ducks, domestic hens, and so on are permissible. The meat of hunting bird is forbidden. The meat of hunting bird. What is this hunting bird?
Like hawks.
Like hawks and eagles and those which hunt the animal. So that meat of those birds, because they are flesh eating animals, they are carnivorous. In the cases where the Sharia has not made clear status of the meat of birds, there are two signs of its being forbidden. One is that when the bird flies, it does not need to flap its wings all the time and mostly glides. So this is also flap. Here in the book, it does not flap, it glides. So I think gliding is the better words to use. Gliding and flapping. Flipping and flapping. So that's the one. The other is that it has no crop or no gizzard or no sign of a bump on the back of its leg. You see this leg of the chicken, this the stem of the leg, like this is the leg of the chicken, okay? There's a bump behind. There's a bump behind. So if no sign of a bump on the back of the leg, if the leg was straight, then it's halal. If there was a bump, then it is haram. Okay. So the other is that it has no crop, no gizzard. What's crop?
Something like hooves or?
No, they have here a bag.
Oh, that one, like a chicken has.
Yes.
That's a crop.
Yes. And then gizzard. What's a gizzard? You know that ojri or something like that, which is in the chicken, the children, they like to eat it because it's elastic and rubberish and
The worm, like.
it's like two bumps.
Yeah.
What is this? This is the intestine of the chicken. People, they like to eat it. But of course the membrane is taken out and the rest is like muscles, because these muscles are very strong muscles. So what chicken eats hard grains like rice and lentil seeds, and then it eats stones. So what happens, all these go here, and these muscles, they grind them, make them powder. It's like a godly grinder. So the lentil becomes in powder. So the powder goes out, the body absorbs the nutrients from it, and then the rest comes out as a waste. So there are stones inside this gizzard, you know. So this gizzard is like a muscular organ where the food is grinded. We grind our food in our mouth. The chicken, they grind in this gizzard.
It's inside the body.
Yes. And this hawsala is for the pigeon and all those. Sometimes they fly, you know, so they store the food. Now you may double check this information properly, because these are like in Arabic it's hawsala, a sack here, and gizzard is inside, and then the bump. So the other is that it has no crop or no gizzard or no sign of a bump on the back of its leg. So that is the sign of what? No, if there's no gizzard,
Oh, they haram.
haram. Because gizzard, who eats? Grain eating animal. Flesh eating animal, they don't have gizzard. Why? Because they have like our stomach digestive system, enzymes which dissolve it, and they have this claws. They make the food part. Flesh eating birds, carnivorous, they make all that, like when they eat, they have this beak also, which has claw type beak, where the regular seed eating animal, they have like beak straight, so they pick up. But the one which has flesh eating, it has claw. From all these signs you can know that this is haram or halal animal. So this beak on the claw and all the tools to rip off the flesh and then eat it. But the chicken, they eat complete grains, and then it goes into their system, and then the grinding happens. You know, the chicken, they don't get suffocated, or you have to do Heimlich maneuver for them, and come on chicken, something is stuck inside, and no, they have this canal, it goes everything inside that gizzard. Other than animals, to eat or drink any kind of intrinsic filth, najasat, like physical impurity, like urine, feces, blood, sperm, alcohol, etc., etc., everything which is najas. Alcohol, of course, I cannot say alcohol here. I think some terminology, we might have terminology problems. Urine is known. Feces, like stool, is najas. Blood is najas. We cannot drink blood. Sperm, semen, it's najas. Alcohol, here I cannot say alcohol is forbidden, najas or not najas, but there are two types of alcohols. One is pure and one is impure. Like perfume, when you put, it's a pure alcohol, but you cannot drink it because it causes intoxicating. And that wine made out of beverage like fruit juice, fermented fruit juice, that is najas also. That's not only forbidden to consume. So putting alcohol in the category of najasat, maybe it's a little bit is forbidden. And the same applies to any intrinsically clean thing that intrinsic filth has dirtied, and which is called mutanajjis, like defiled object. Okay, one is najas, like for example urine, stool is najas. This water touched the stool, or this food was wet, touched the stool, so this food become mutanajjis, defiled. So this is impure object, this is defiled by the impure object, which has touched the impure object with wetness. So this is mutanajjis. Similarly, to eat or drink anything that is harmful to the body, the harm of which is considered significant, like poison, for example, is also forbidden. Like harmful, any seriously harmful thing, like poison, is harmful. Any food which smoking, if it becomes seriously harmful, hubbly, bubbly, hookah, mukkah, or anything which is seriously harmful, if it's proven that it's seriously harmful, then it's forbidden. That you have to look at the medical professions. In Sharia gives you the guideline. You ask the doctors, is it seriously harmful or not? Is also forbidden. If medicine, for example, similarly to eat or drink anything that is harmful, to eat, severely harmful, we will say, the harm of which is considered significant, like poison, for example, is also forbidden. I don't know. We give the guideline. You check it out with the medicine professions. If medicine discerns, or if medical professions discerns that a certain thing, like tobacco, for example, is definitely harmful to the body, to the heart, let's say, or to the nerves, and shortens one's life expectation or produces cancer, then its use will be forbidden as well. If it is not consequential, however, and if it's simply like breathing the air of most of the cities, it is not forbidden. Because when you breathe the polluted air, it's like worse than smoking sometimes. But you are not consequently going and breathing air. Come on, pollution, come inside me, or you're something. No, you go there, you have to go through the work, shopping, this, that. So it comes without any intention. So it's unintentional harm, and you cannot avoid it. So it's unavoidable, number one. It is unintentional. Smoking is intentional, avoidable. For a pregnant woman to consume something which leads to the abortion of her child, or for a person to consume something that leads to disorder of the senses, or for a man to consume something that leads to permanent sterilization, or for a woman to consume something that leads to a permanent sterility, is forbidden. Yani you cannot, like birth control are two types, permanent and temporary. You cannot make permanent birth control unless if it was seriously harmful, like vasectomy, or what do they say, ovectomy, something, ovary, tying the fallopian canal tubes. That is temporary. If you take the ovaries out, that is permanent. If you take the testicles out, that is permanent. You don't want to do that. Among other forbidden things, eating earth, drinking intoxicating liquors are absolutely forbidden to consume. Forbidden. To consume that which belongs to another without the consent of the owner is strictly forbidden. But this is an incidental prohibition, not intrinsic. Like apple is not najis, but it's somebody else's. Without his permission, if I eat, then I'm going to commit haram. So it's not originally najis, self-najis. No, it's an accidental forbidden act. It's not even najis. Certain parts of permitted meat animals like spleen, testicles, and reproductive system parts, and the milk of forbidden meat animals like milk of lion. They say if you want to become lion, drink the milk of lioness. Don't you ever do that. Forbidden meat and forbidden things. When we eat this forbidden food and forbidden drinks and forbidden things, what happens? It creates barrier in our system. It creates barrier in our system between our ruh and our God, between our nafs and between our ruh. So our ruh cannot function properly, cannot communicate with God, cannot think properly. All what we think is about haram, and because we get inclined. How? Like if you take a piece of flesh, meat, this meat is made out of polypeptide. This polypeptide, when we eat, the meat is broken down into polypeptide. This polypeptide is broken further into peptone. This peptone is broken further because of the enzymes to amino acids or amino acids, based on whichever accent you take. So this amino acids or amino acids, what happens? They go inside the microvilli, or what they say, the wall of the intestine. Wall of the small intestine. They get inside the bloodstream. What does the bloodstream do? It carries it all in the brain, in our system, reproductive system, in our brain. Now what happens? If I eat this flesh which is haram and najis, that peptone is haram and najis, that peptide, that amino acid, it's najis and haram. It goes where? Inside our blood. It goes in my brain. I always think of haram things. I don't want to come close to God. This creates a barrier between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My nafs, my desire, it gets clouded. So my ruh doesn't like to do worship. Why? Because there's a barrier between my ruh, between God. So this nafs becomes polluted. And then it goes to the reproductive system. When I have children, that amino acid haram got into the sperm, and now the sperm went into the ovary, fertilized the egg. That egg is now haram product in it. It's half metaphysically impure. So now this egg goes into 2, 4, 8, 6, 16, 32, and a baby is formed out of that multiplication of that forbidden amino acid. Your child, you tell him, please offer salat, come to the masjid. To hell with you guys, I don't want to come masjid. Why? Because you built your child, the infrastructure of the child. Your child is made out of forbidden amino acid which have been replicated and multiplied, and now your son has all this junk amino acid originally which was impure now, and he doesn't have desire to come and to offer salat and do the good deeds. That's why to how to break it down, one of the things which breaks it down if unintentionally is fasting. Fasting breaks this unintentional junk which has piled down, because one of the companions of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam comes to him and says, Yabna Rasulullah, I used to go Hajj, and whenever I go Hajj, I used to feel that spiritual nature inside myself. This time I went for Hajj, I did not feel anything. Imam says, Yukhsha anna luqmata haramin qad dakhalat jawfaka. It seems that there's a fear that a haram bite has entered inside your system, and that's why you're not able to feel that kind of spirituality with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why you see in the holy month of Ramadan, this fasting dissolves the impurities which enters the system. then you see people, they want to do pay charity, namaz-e-shab, and all those kind of various types of worships they want to do. You see, so that's something I just wanted to mention in regards to this haram. I think we are done with the chapter of food, and inshallah we will complete in our next session the chapter of ghasb. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.